Hi, welcome to this micro lesson. It is a part of a broader series of tips and tools for service providers supporting refugees and ORR eligible newcomers across California. We are doing this project in partnership with CDSS and the Refugee Programs Bureau. In today's micro lesson, we're going to be talking about working with interpreters, but in a way that goes beyond the typical do and don't list. This micro lesson focuses on building a three-person communication team: the provider, the interpreter, and the client, where everyone has a role in making the conversation clear and respectful. The tips we'll talk about today come from real field experience and are meant to be simple, actionable, and ready to use in your next client meeting. So, what makes this type of communication so different when you have an interpreter? Interpreted communication, it isn't just translating words. It's a three-way conversation because each person is playing a very different and specific role. The provider is guiding the purpose and the flow. The interpreter is bridging the language and cultural meaning, and the client is sharing their experiences, needs, and goals. When we treat everyone as equal members of the communication team, trust will increase, misunderstandings will decrease, and clients feel respected. Not that just that they're being talked to or talked about, but they're a part of the conversation. So the very first step in making the experience a better experience for everyone is to set the tone. You need to start every interpreted session by creating the atmosphere that needs to be there. So a simple introduction helps everyone feel grounded. Something like, "My name is Carissa, and I'll be asking questions to help you connect you to services. This is Mohammed, who will interpret everything we both say so we can both understand each other." So that short step of setting the tone, having a clear introduction, it builds transparency, it establishes equal footing, and it avoids the feeling that the interpreter is in charge or on the provider's side. So also positioning matters. You want to make sure that you arrange the seating so that the client can see both the provider and the interpreter comfortably, not where the interpreter's body blocks eye contact or where the provider and the interpreter are looking at each other. So it's really important to make sure that positioning is there. During the session, you can think about the conversation as a three-person dialogue. So here are a few important behaviors. You want to make sure that you speak to the client, not to the interpreter. So you'll look at the client's eyes, you'll smile at the client. Your warmth should be directed at them, even if someone else is speaking the words out loud. You want to make sure you speak in short, complete thoughts. Interpreters process meaning, not just the words. So it's important to give them manageable chunks of information to interpret. Another thing you can do is to pause regularly. This prevents overload on the interpreter and the client, and it ensures accuracy. The next thing you can do is to avoid idioms or metaphors. Like phrases like, "Oh, this is up in the air," or "red flag," or "make sure we're on the same page." Those kind of phrases rarely translate well, and it can just add to confusion. You can additionally check understanding as a team. So you can say, "Let's pause and make sure we're all together on this," or "How does this, how do you understand this so far? Does this make sense?" You can also make sure to invite the interpreter's expertise. You can say at the beginning, "Please let me know anytime something needs clarification or if I should slow down." This gives interpreters permission to support the communication process fully. So if they need something repeated or if they don't understand a certain word that you used, they know that it's appropriate for them to pause and ask that question for clarification. Something that I want to highlight in this training is not just what interpreters should do, but how can providers support interpreters? So here are a few ways to make the job a little bit smoother for the person who is interpreting. So set a reasonable pace. So if you hear the interpreter taking a long breath or pausing, slow down. That could be a cue for you. It's important to remember that when we're speaking the language that is most comfortable for us, we are typically speaking at a much faster rate. So we have to be cognizant of, okay, how can I slow this down so that it can have the time to be interpreted? You can acknowledge the emotional tone. For example, you can say, I'm going to explain something sensitive, so please interpret my tone gently. You can give the interpreter a little more information about the context that you're going to be talking about and the setting and the vibe of that conversation. You should also make sure to avoid side conversations. Everything that is said should be interpreted. It's important to also let the interpreter ask for repetition without making them feel embarrassed about that. This is a sign of professionalism. It's not a sign of failure to ask for something to be repeated or to get clarification on something. Finally, do not ask interpreters to summarize what you just said. Summaries cause lost nuance. Interpretation should be complete and accurate. When providers take these steps, interpreters can do their work more accurately and with far less stress. So, even when another voice is in the room, your relationship is still with the client. A few things help preserve that rapport, even when you have another person in the room helping with that conversation. Make sure to keep your body oriented to the client. Use your facial expressions and gentle tone. Your body language is also helping communicate, even when you're using an interpreter. You can nod as the interpreter speaks to reinforce empathy or other emotions. And remember, the emotion is communicated through posture, not just words. So keep those things in mind in order to continue to preserve that rapport that you're building with the client. Clients often have reported feeling talked over in interpreted sessions, so small nonverbal behaviors like these can prevent that. After you have a session with an interpreter, if you have a moment after the client leaves, it would be really great to go ahead and do a quick debrief with the interpreter. You can ask if anything felt unclear about what you were trying to communicate. Were there any points that you should be made aware of? Is there anything that I can do differently next time to support smoother interpretation? These questions can build trust and improve future teamwork. Even if you're not using that interpreter again, it'll help you become a better partner to interpreters in the future. So, working with interpreters is about partnership. When the provider, the interpreter, and the client function as that three-person team, communication becomes clearer, relationships feel stronger, and clients feel respected and included. So, thank you so much for watching this micro lesson today about working with interpreters. We would love your feedback. You can do that through the QR code on the screen. And just thank you so much for watching this micro lesson from Solvera. We're your partner in Impact.